Hello, this is a demo of DBmaestro's database source control and release management. DBmaestro is following DevSecOps best practices to make sure modern processes can be streamlined easily for your application and for your database in sync, while making sure that your database safety is always in check. Database risk is always considered much higher than application releases, so we want to make sure that we focus on impact analysis and making sure we don't get into a situation where we create damage and rather deal with that in advance. So during this demo today, I'll talk about how we manage development processes, how we deal with operations processes, cater for the different agendas of each group. So more to effectivity and productivity on dev side, while being safer, predictable, and scalable while treating upside. But this is all combined with securities, permissions, auditing, etc. During development processes, DBmaestro helps you streamline change processes. So making sure that you follow best proven processes from code development, things like check-in, check-out, labels, change revision history, etc. This is enforced on the database, so preventing any out-of-process changes. DBmaestro is also managing security roles to control who can do what, when and where on your different environments. What policies needs to be enforced, so to make sure that while automating, you're not letting people push changes that might need to go through code review, or challenging changes, or even dangerous changes that you might want to block, like dropping a table. You don't want that to be put into a release process and run that too efficiently into production and create damage. Once you actually have a package that a person can run and the content is okay, you want to make sure that it's perfectly audited, so you always know exactly who did what, when, and why. Catering for ops, of course, requires us to perform a very safe process. We want to make sure that we follow best practices, that we essentially check the credentials of the person who's trying to push changes forward, to make sure that the content itself can be pushed forward as well. And essentially, we want to make sure that not just trivial things like dropping from a table from production are prevented, but also more challenging things like we want to rebuild an index that might run perfectly fine on QA and staging, but you wouldn't want to do that on production during the day. You might just want to do that during the night or even weekend. Once a package is validated that it can actually go forward, we would validate the configuration of the database. So we want to make sure that there's no database drift that is risking your release. You want to make sure that you don't override any changes that someone else made, and essentially that your release would work based on the successes of previous environments. Only if the configuration is expected and there's no drifts or no potential challenges, DBmaestro will run that package, audit all changes, and then reapply another validation that would make sure that you actually got to the expected result. It's not just about running the scripts and making sure there's no errors, because sometimes you would get no errors yet not reach the desired configuration. So DBmaestro would actually validate and assert that you got the correct configuration. What I'm going to show you now is DBmaestro's release pipelines, how we create builds, how we release them across different environments. DBmaestro tracks the different versions that you have in each environment. So integration is in version 0.41, QA is in 32, and production is a bit older. DBmaestro is accumulating insights into your release process, so tracking exactly what happens in each one of your projects. You can actually compare one project to another, see different scorecards or best practice scorecards from DevOps that essentially measure your success and can follow trends like rate of successful deployments, rate of failures, lead time, mean time to recovery, and other scorecards that would help you measure what's happening so you can improve your processes. DBmaestro, of course, connects to modern pipelines, so connecting to different IDEs, different source control systems, different release automation products or CI/CD products. And with that, I'll move into the demo. As you can see, this is browser-based. I'm logging into my environment now, and essentially I can see my project. I said my project because essentially I can just see the projects that I have permissions to. So my user has access to several projects that in this case, one of the all. So segmentation is very important. Each user is exposed only to the relevant projects that he should have access to. And we're also helping you manage permissions and access rights. So for instance, specific user might have credentials. This is the user I'm using for this demo, might have credentials to do everything in the system, source control, administration, to be a release manager and also a product admin, and to push changes to all environments. But other users might have credentials to only make some changes or do releases, or even just view releases for some of the environments. Users are connected to your directory services, so they're authenticated with a single sign-on process, and essentially helping you create a very, very secure process which is connected to your working environments. Let's drill into a project. A project is an application release branch. Essentially, you can have as many as you want, and each project would track the different versions of a database application across different environments. In this case, we can see development. We have 2 environments, integration environment, 2 environments for QA, and an environment for production. In my demo now, I'll initiate some changes through an IDE. I'll show you how that's happening. So I'm gonna make updates to dev environment 1. In this case, connect through Oracle SQL Developer. For Microsoft, that would be SQL Server Management Studio, the SSMS. And essentially, I want to show you how we help you manage a safer process to introduce changes to the database. So let's say I got a few tasks. I need to add a new column, change a procedure, and change some metadata information. I want to add my column here. So just clicking edit and trying to add my column, but I'm saying trying because I actually did not check out that object. The object is checked in, and so it's blocked in the system. I get a message that says table 1 is checked in and cannot be modified. Please check out. This is enforced no matter what IDE I'm using. So I might even go to command line and say alter table, add column, and yet get the same message that says it's checked in. Please check out. While doing so, we are preventing any out-of-process changes. We'll always make sure that you need to check out, that everybody knows what everybody is doing, and there's no changes going into the database without proper tagging. I could make that change based on the ID. I can even go back and make the change through the command line. In this case, that's what I did. And I can check it back in into the repository. Once I'm checking in, I can connect the change to task systems like Jira, TFS, and others, and essentially help you tag physical database changes to logical tasks, so you can create more flexible deployments, do scope changes, etc. Once I did a check-in, DBmaestro enables you to see the different changes. You can compare different revisions, and essentially in this case, see the column that was added. Let's make a couple more changes and deploy them. So this time I need to introduce another change, maybe for this procedure. Let's call it demo of DBmaestro source control. Okay. So I apply the change, I test my application with the database and check in that change. Once it's checked in, again, this object becomes available for others to alter, but we always keep full track of the entire release in the entire change history. Another change I need to introduce to a table that contains metadata. This is a specific table that I've declared that needs to follow a change procedure. So in this case, I need to change Paris and add some exclamation marks. If I try to commit without checking out that object, I would get a message that says the location table content is checked in and cannot be modified. Please check out. So in this case, again, in order to introduce the change, I need to check out the data or the content of the table. Only then I will be able to introduce that change. This time it is successfully committed, and I can check that back in. Okay, checking in that content. And then, of course, I get the ability to see revisions of the content. So I can even see the differences between content changes. In this case, changing Paris to Paris with exclamation marks. Now that I have some changes in the system, I want to push them into the next environment, into integration environment. So I can either initiate that based on the DBmaestro UI, or as in most cases, you want to build one process for your application and database. So you might want to trigger that from Jenkins. In this case, it's as easy as one command that says build this project, that environment, latest version, and that's it. So this job has already started. One of the DBmaestro's agents picked up that job, and essentially you can have as many agents as you want, so you can do any amount of load or capacity balancing. And essentially, we know from the report which objects were included in that build. From the moment that build was created, I get a package, a collection of changes that I can consider for releases. These changes might be the changes that we've just initiated. In this specific example, I can see alter table add column 3. That's the first change that I did. Demo for source control, that's the comment I added for the second procedure. And if I scroll down, I'll be able to see Paris with the exclamation marks. So this is the change that DBmaestro has generated automatically based on the source control changes. So it created alter and change command on demand. But that's not the only way you can work with DBmaestro. DBmaestro also enables you to pull changes directly from your source control. So if you have a development process that you're very happy with and all your development changes are flowing into your source control, Git, Subversion, whatever it might be, we can pull them directly from that and very easily place them and start the process just from here. So in this case, I have a procedure that changes a drop command, and I've gathered everything under package v 2.1. I can always see the previous packages that were deployed, the scripts that were part of that, and in this case, go forward. So I've created a package 2.1, and I want to push that package into the integration environment. All I need to do is click upgrade. DBmaestro knows that version 2.0 is implemented, so it's only offering me 2.1. So I've initiated an update, but this update is actually going to fail very quickly. And if I review the latest jobs that ran, I can just see that I have violated a policy that says I cannot drop any table. Okay, so of course I tried to drop a table, and this is not permitted. This is prevented as part of the organizational policy that you can set for yourself. You can be as creative as you want, create specific rules for projects or organizational rules that would apply for all projects. And of course, just for the sake of the demo, I'll remove that drop command and move forward without it. In other situations, I might need to go back to development, reapply maybe different logic, different changes, and then move forward to integration again. In this case, I'll run the upgrade to update to version 2.1. Again, one of the agents picked up that job and is already running to execute that. As part of the process, we can see that DBmaestro has created labels. V2.1 pre, that means before running the script, a baseline of the database was taken, so we can always refer back to what was the configuration before we ran the scripts. Scripts are being executed, and then another baseline would be taken just after the configuration is being updated. So in this case, creating the configuration that we should expect after each release has been successfully completed. So in this case, 2.1 post. So we have that environment already updated with version 2.1. We can always see the history of jobs that were run on that environment, and we can see the different packages that are deployed to this environment. So you can always revisit different change set, different processes, and different labels that were pushed forward. Now I need to update QA environment. I'll do that from Jenkins again, just as an example. And in this case, I jump-started the build. Again, the command is very, very simple. You could do that from Jenkins or from command line or any other tool. In this case, upgrade, HR project, QA environment, version 2.1. The thing is that for this specific environment, I've created a challenge on purpose. This environment is all ready to receive the upgrade, but the second environment is actually drifted. If I'll go to the database, I would actually find out QA2 that one of the objects has a drift. This object was changed as part of a hotfix that needed to go into production but never matured. So actually, while DBmaestro is running its upgrade, it's going to assess the configuration of the environment. So if the configuration is exactly what we're expecting, like this one, the process would run successfully, introduce the upgrade, and make sure that it ran completely and safely, and we got to the correct results. But in that case, where we have a drift, essentially, I can drill in, and of course that process never started because DBmaestro says it failed object validation. We have a drift here, okay? So we can actually see that DBmaestro says this object is drifted. We can also see the exact changes in how it's drifting from our expected configuration. But I can essentially even decide that, okay, this change is maybe not that important for me. I have the permissions to actually roll that back to the desired configuration. I want to roll that back into the correct baseline of 1.5. So essentially, DBmaestro has jump-started another job that would identify the specific changes that needs to be introduced into that environment to make it exactly as we were expecting. This job is now running. Again, one of the agents took that, and now we're back into version 1.5. If I'll go pick at the database again and refresh that object, I would find out that now it lost its second parameter, and essentially DBmaestro returned that exactly to what version 1.5 should have been. And then I can continue with the upgrade as planned. Let's talk about production. Now I want to also push the changes into production. When I go to update production, we can actually see that version 2 production holds version 1.5. That means that I can have the ability to select what version I want to push forward, just 1.5, 2.0, or even 2.1 that would include all of the previous changes. I can alternatively select work by task and deploy selective work items or selective changes, usually based on trouble tickets. We can see that that has failed as well. Revisiting the recent jobs, I can see that I have violated a policy that says I can only introduce changes into production during the night. So, of course, we're not going to sit here and wait. So let me change the clock, of course. Hopefully, your people wouldn't do that on real production, but I'm going to push that to be nighttime. So just after midnight tomorrow. Of course, having done that, I'll need to relog in into the system. Oops, sorry. And now, when it's nighttime, I can actually push that change forward and apply the different changes into production. Again, a job is initiated, introducing changes, running, and upgrading to version 2.1. Essentially, I can even decide that I now want to roll back and push that back into version 2.0, and maybe I want to see the script before I actually run it. So I have full flexibility of any change. So while DBmaestro was running everything, we also got a perfect audit to show us exactly what happened in the entire environments, to see all changes, and essentially to know exactly who did what, when, and why. DBmaestro has created a perfect audit, has accumulated all of the different changes. I can see all of the successful deployments, failed deployments, and on our next release also drifted environments. So I can very easily see what I have to deal with before it becomes a problem. I hope you found this demo beneficial, and we're happy to answer your questions. Thank you.